podcast. My name is Evan Rayom, and I'm here with Ryan. And in this live stream, we'll be rocking a Yahoo mock draft. Let's go.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We are on Yahoo this week. We're doing what we do best. We're mock drafting. So what we're gonna do to start off this show, we're gonna have me and Evan jump in a Yahoo mock lobby, just as you would in your free time, and we're gonna see what kind of teams we can build, how much value we can get, because Yahoo's expert rankings were just released and mock drafts are open now, and there seems to be a lot of value to be had. So we're going to see how much value exactly we can have in these drafts. They are set up to be a categories league with 2 centers, 2 left wings, 2 right wings, 4 D, and 2 goalies with 4 bench spots. So only 16 rounds total. It's not such a deep league. And the categories they list there are goals, assists, plus minus, which is disgusting, but we are going to do it and talk about it. Power play points, shots on goal, and hits. So no blocks in this one. So we're going to be ignoring that for defense. And then the goaltenders, we're counting wins, goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts, which is pretty much the standard category league setup, where goalies, if they have a really bad week, they can really hurt you. Evan, how you feeling about this setup?
Good. Got to get the Yahoo mocks in now that it's out. Love to be here with you, Ryan, per usual. And with just us, we might get into it here a little bit. We got no Brian to kind of be the cushion, the comedy, the making really good picks, but not having the intense back and forth that we do on our picks. So might have to, we'll have to keep it civil for the people here.
Yeah, we might get along a little more than usual, especially if we're both drafting in this Yahoo draft. I don't think I'm gonna hate any pick that you or I can take.
Absolutely.
We do have a question while we're waiting for a draft. I'll show it. We got a first timer here, and he's doing his first NHL draft this year. Awesome. Welcome to fantasy hockey. I have pick 1 as of now, but could trade it for a different one. What's your favorite pick positions so far in points head-to-head league? That's an interesting one. Evan, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. You could trade your top pick, although I don't know that I would necessarily do it your first year. It'd be a good spot to start off with either Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid. I don't feel too strongly about trading a number 1 overall pick if it's your first year and you don't really have the kind of knowledge base to see some value in some of the mid to later rounds. But you could look into it, see what you could get as an offer. But I don't do a ton of trading in my leagues for picks. Ryan, do you have any experience with that?
Yeah, I think that's very sound advice, especially for a first timer. If you are trading and it's your first time in fantasy hockey and you're not so confident, it is unlikely you're going to come on top of that trade. But in terms of pick position, I think the start of the draft is a great spot. You're going to get one of those top 5 players. I see a nice top 5 in McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov, Draisaitl, and Makar. I'd be happy drafting anywhere in the top 5. Where it gets a little tricky is 6, 7, 8, 9. I think there are a bunch of players that shift around there that I think I don't love drafting in that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got you. There's another Ryan in here, actually. It's almost like I'm wondering if you're drafting twice here. I'm kind of suspicious. Getting the 2 top teams. But he's on the clock. These are 30-second picks, so we're going to see this is going to go pretty quickly, and we're going to see how this goes.
Yeah. So McDavid goes first, and we probably won't announce every single pick, but we're gonna, because I think it'll go pretty quick. But I'm going with Nathan McKinnon at the 2. Very happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, can't get much worse than that. Sorry, it is kind of strange because when I go to look at players, it takes us off the draft results, but I'll kind of keep it on there, and I'm just going to make my picks quickly as it gets to mine. I'm at the 10 spot. Ryan, you're at the 2. We got Nikita Kucherov after that. I really don't hate that. I could think in most of our drafts, whether it be categories, points leagues, I think that's kind of a consensus top 3. I think you throw Makar and Draisaitl in there in a lot of different formats as well. So there we go. We got Leon Draisaitl at the 4 right after Kucherov. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Makar go next. It's a pretty clear cut. Kirill Kaprizov. I don't dislike that. I took him at 6 in one of the earlier ones. Are you like, I feel like this year more than any other previous year, I feel like the top 5 is kind of locked in for me, Ryan, in a lot of spots.
Yeah, for me as well. Top 5 for sure. In some leagues where D are not as important, where it's like more of a shallower league, I think the top 4 without Makar are pretty locked in. But yeah, I have the same top 5. I think Makar there at 7 is great value. Yeah, I'm excited to see this Yahoo draft. I did one yesterday, and oh man, 0G was not happening. We had so many goalies going early, and it just gave me so much good value in the early part of the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Mikko Rantanen, your boy, going at the 1-6. What do you have to say about that? As I'm coming up on my pick, got sniped.
You got sniped on Mikko Rantanen? No, yeah. I don't love that. I don't love Mikko Rantanen at the 1-6. I don't like Mikko Rantanen in the first round. I won't beat the horse to death here, but I don't think he's getting 90 points this year.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Let's see. What are my options? Man, I'm going to go a bit off the board, going with a defenseman, Zach Werenski. I don't really dislike it in this spot. It does start to get somewhat dicey at the end of the first for Zach Werenski for me. In one of our other drafts, best ball, of course, you got him in the mid-second, which I think is a still really good spot for him considering where he went in last year's drafts. What are you thinking about Zach Werenski? What's like the highest you're considering him in some of these drafts?
Yeah, I don't hate him there at 10. I'm considering him in some drafts, like those best balls where D are very important. I'm considering him at the 8 spot, maybe the 9 spot. But here, like 10, I think it's good. I think that you'll read your league mates and see how high they are on him, see how high they are on D in general. And if I was in the 10 spot and I knew my league mates weren't very high on him, I would probably go with like a Brady Tkachuk and trust that I can get Werenski in round 2.
Yeah, I don't hate that take at all. Brady Tkachuk, category coverage, especially for this spot. I see Jack Eichel going pretty high in a lot of drafts at the center spot. For me, that's a bit too rich. I don't know if you have a different take on that, Ryan, as I'm getting into my pick here.
Yeah, I agree. I think first round is a bit high for him, especially since he's center only. Not much flexibility there. And honestly, we can ignore injury history all we want, but he's had lots of seasons where he's missed some games. You can put him on IR, slot in that replacement level player, but I'd be much more happy with him in the second round to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. I just, in centers too, you talk about value over replacement. Centers are deep in a lot of formats. And, I just feel like even if he exceeds expectations with the addition of Mitch Marner, I don't know that I want him as high as, the first round, even mid-second to me is kind of too high. And then, so we've gotten my top 2 picks going Zach Werenski, Kyle Connor. In between there, getting Jack Eichel, Brady Tkachuk, Quinn Hughes. We go Willie Nylander after that, Jack Hughes, Matthew Tkachuk. Don't know if this person knows about his potential injury. Maybe you should join in on the Apples and Ginos podcast, and you'll figure that out. Mitch Marner. goes after that, and then we're coming up on your pick, Ryan. Don't want to steal any of your thunder.
Yeah, that's right. As I'm thinking through some of these players here, I'm in best ball mode. If you watched last week's draft, I'm really in that mode, and left wings are very scarce in that Fantrax format. Just looking through Yahoo's positionality and dual positions, it looks like that's not necessarily the case. I think left wing and right wing are pretty equally scarce here, so I'm not going to lean any which way. I will lean towards dual eligibility, that's for sure. But what are your thoughts about positions and aiming for certain ones in this format?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was looking at some of that too. There's even some guys that are try eligible here, which is really crazy, but provides extreme value. So yeah, there's a lot of guys here that have either dual eligibility, left wing, right wing, some players getting center eligibility, which really allows you in a lot of spots to throw them in different positions and get those points. So it adds a layer of kind of separating different players when that's available for sure.
Yeah, and Philip Forsberg went at the 20th pick. He's one where in the previous mock draft I did on Yahoo, his like expert rank is way lower than I think it should be, and I was like hoping to get him in the third round here, which I think you can do in a lot of these Yahoo mock drafts, which I think is just such a steal.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And as Artemi Panarin goes in the third round at the 3-2 after Braden Point, you're up on your pick. We got a good question. Nylander versus Panarin from Lucio. I think it's a great question, actually. For my money, I like Panarin. And the reason is, one, he's a left winger, which, as we know, in a lot of formats are more valuable. I also think that the Rangers, both him and the Rangers, are due for a bounce back. And, he got that 120-point season. I don't think he gets back to that, but I think he's actually somewhere in between the, 80 and 120 points. Like, I would be more surprised if he got less than 90 points this year than I would be if he got, less than 80 for sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think they're extremely close. I have Panarin projected for 91 points, Nylander projected for 84, but I have Panarin projected more closer to his floor, thinking that the Rangers aren't going to improve that much. I have them improving a lot on the power play, but still not such a top team that they've been in the past. And so I like Panarin's upside more than Nylander's here. And yeah, I took Bouchard in round 2. He's like one of those last top end D you can get, although I think you're going to, oh no, he got snagged. Yeah, we have a sharp drafter in here by Ender taking Forsberg, then Dahlin. I thought Dahlin would go to you for sure. But yeah, I took Bouchard. Yeah. And then I did take Panarin. That was me in round 3, which I think 90 points is a good floor.
Panarin round 3. That's what you get here with Ryan from Apples and Ginos in these Yahoo mocks. As I'm up here, I'm going to see some of my options. So this is a spot, again, where I'm looking at some of these dual eligible players, and Tage Thompson getting that right wing. I do not hate at all. I think, again, he's going to get 40-plus goals. It's been well documented through a lot of our mocks that I'm pretty high on Buffalo going to this year. Probably going to bite me, going in on like the likes of Buffalo and Montreal for this season. But I just feel like every year they have some sort of, kind of bounce back in the second half, and Tage Thompson is going to be the pivotal point of their offense moving forward. What do you think about Tage Thompson with his right wing eligibility in that spot?
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot better in Yahoo than in Fantrax with that right wing eligibility. With him at center only, I think he was dropping a little further than he should. I might be a little lower on Buffalo than you, but I still think Tage is an elite goal scorer and should get at least 70 points with like 45 goals. And that's if Buffalo doesn't really improve that much from last year.
Absolutely. And so we go with Matt Boldy. I go Celebrini, Igor Shesterkin, Uyghur, and then we're still coming up here. What do you think about some of these spots in Yahoo? I feel like a lot of people don't value the defenseman kind of as much as we do in other drafts, obviously like best ball and everything. So I feel like you can get some decent value with defense here moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, what I like to do is look for those top D in the first few rounds. And then if I miss out at those top 2 or 3 tiers, however you want to tier the defenseman, I'm not very interested in defensemen in the middle rounds, and I think I can find value later. So I'm very interested in this top tier. I think there's still a few defensemen in here that I might go for. But yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of goalies come off the board. I think we're going to continue to see that. And I don't know about you, but I ain't touching a goalie until at least the last round in this format.
Yeah, no, it's pretty easy to fade on goalies in this format for sure. We get a lot of, you just look at the value though, and that's why some of these Yahoo mocks, it's easier to get it. Jason Robertson in the 4th round feels like value to me. Matt Boldy in the 4th round feels like value. Jesper Bratt, dual eligible, I believe here, as well in the 4th round. So some of these picks are really good. We got some sharp drafters with us, I believe, which is nice. We're not just going to roll over the competition. And as you're coming up on your pick, we got Marty Nikas as well, right wing. We got another comment from Lucio. I'm low on Hudson this year at his current ADP. Try and sell him to me. I think Lane Hudson is still going to be a great 60-plus point defenseman. In a categories league with his periffs not being as good, it's harder to sell. I really do think he is the real deal. He's going to maintain that PP1. The only thing that slightly concerns me is the arrival of Noah Dobson, which may eat into some of his even strength minutes, but he's still going to maintain that role on the top power play. He's still going to eat there. Ryan, what do you think about Lane Hudson going into this year?
Yeah, I see what Lucio's saying with the current ADP. We don't have so many public ADPs, but I've seen him go a tad earlier than I've wanted to draft him, and I have him projected for 64 points this year. So I haven't been able to get any of him in any of the best balls just because he's been taken a little early. Just with the lack of peripherals, I think his blocks was a nice surprise, and that should continue, but he really doesn't shoot. He really doesn't hit. 64 points is amazing from a defenseman, but I think he'll lack in most points leagues that really count some peripheral categories.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm surprised at the stuff we're getting in this draft. There's definitely better drafters in here. I was gonna get Nietzsche's in round 4, which I would have loved, and I was actually looking at Morrissey, although I then remembered that Yossi was available. So I went Brandon Hagel round 4, which I love. I think he's point per game player now, and will continue to do so with top power play time. And then I'm liking Roman Yossi in round 5. I think the medical issues scare me off a bit, but in round 5, I really like that value. I think he can be still a top 5 defenseman.
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree with that. I think that your picks even here really good with both of them. I really like the Roman Yossi and the Panarin. So you got Yossi in the 5th round. You got Panarin in the 3rd round. Talk to me about how you just absolutely run these drafts, Ryan.
Yeah, it's Yahoo. So you're we're gonna compliment a lot. We're gonna compliment each other a lot in this one. You got Seth Jarvis in the 6th round. That's great. And Wyatt Johnston in the 6th round. Good job. So
that feels it. This almost feels like I was a few years back or 2 years last year. I feel like I'm getting some of these players that 2-3 year ago value. That's why it's nice to do these mock drafts. It makes you feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah, I always find I do some Yahoo mock drafts and then to prepare for my league, and then I get into the league and I'm like, oh, this is nothing like sharp drafters that I play with, and I cannot get Brandon Hagel in the 4th round. I can't get Yossi in the 5th. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll bring up some of these comments as we're coming up on your picks here. So we had Lucio talking about Hudson. We actually had Leandre saying, I think Hudson is going to get a lot more goals this year. I don't know that he gets a lot more, but I do think he can shoot more. And I think as he kind of comes into his second full year, that may be a thing, especially on the power play, even though he's an elite facilitator. We got Matt Norris. At what round do you guys consider taking Elias Pettersson? Great question. As I believe in this format, he has left wing eligibility. In Yahoo in particular, with left wing eligibility, I would certainly consider him probably as early as like the 6th round, maybe even 5th. I think Elias Pettersson's floor to me feels like probably more close to 60 points with some good peripherals. I think it's more reasonable. He probably gets back up to 70 points. Ryan, have anything to say on that briefly?
Yeah, I like Pettersson to bounce back a bit. I got him projected for 70 this year. And I think around the 7th round is a good spot to draft him in most leagues. Right now, I'm not considering him yet because there's still great value elsewhere. So I took Sanderson at the end of the 6th round. Again, I think he's in this elite D tier. And then I'm so happy to take Kevin Fiala in the 7th round. I think he's got a big bounce back coming. And I think this is great value in Yahoo right now. His expert rank is too low.
Kevin Fiala in the 7th round, 70 points, book it. I mean, that's pretty good stuff. Jake Sanderson, great number 1 defenseman on the up and up. Great in the 6th round. Can you, again, I'm just trying to imagine my actual leagues being like this. Like you said, you get into your actual league and you're like, wait, where are all the good players? So no, yeah, that's really good stuff. Lisa, again,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, at this point, like I have 3 defensemen who I see as like really elite defensemen. I think Sanderson has established himself in that tier. And at this point, I think now there might be a lot of value in D still, but I'm starting to ignore D. I definitely don't want a 50 on my roster on the bench. And in some leagues, I might consider only rostering 3D. Your pick's coming up, so I'll talk about that thought, and then I want to ask you what you think about it. So, sure. In a lot of leagues, I like to have like a streaming slot available, so I can be pretty happy to drop a player and then pick up a player on a Monday with a great schedule that I can get 4 games streamed on. So if I have 4 elite D on my team, they're staying on my team, and if they're not playing 4 games that week, then it just I'm not optimizing the games played on my team. So if my last defenseman here is a little more of a streamer level player in the later rounds, I'd be happy to drop him if he's not playing 4 games, and then I can look at the schedule, find someone who's playing on off nights, who's a forward, who I can really find value on the waiver wire, and I can slot in 4 forward games rather than having like 3 defenseman games. So what are your thoughts on how many D you like to roster in these types of leagues?
No, I think that's a really good point because as you said, you can kind of just pick one up and run more forwards. As I say that, I'm going to go with another defenseman, but it's strictly for where he's at right now. But no, I don't dislike that take at all. I think that you can definitely make that work in this format and categories, leagues, and everything to get those peripherals. Yeah, I don't dislike it when you've got the 4, and there's so many forwards, especially when you've got this like dual and try eligibility to fit them in different spots on different nights, because you're going to get more value out of that. They're going to just inherently score more. They're going to get more for you.
Yeah, and also in these shallower leagues, there's only 16 rounds in this one. So there's going to be plenty of value on the waiver wire. And I don't want to be stuck with 4 elite defensemen on my team. Although, like, it's great. I'm super happy with my elite defenseman, but I want to be able to drop one when they don't have a good schedule.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, I mean, we even going back briefly, we had 2 goalies go in the first 2 rounds, Connor Hellebuck going in the first round. This is kind of the spots that you see that in these Yahoo mocks where goalies are going super high. And this is where we kind of preach the 0G, I think, because a lot of these, top tier goalies get taken. That just leaves more of these elite level forwards in the later rounds. You get Matvei Michkov going in the 8th round. I love to see that. You got Kirill Marchenko, potentially 40 goals score, 70 to 80 points, 8th round. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and again, we do have some nice drafters. It's the same guy, Ender, who's taken all these guys that we're liking. Because in the previous mock draft, in the expert ranks on Yahoo have Marchenko in like the 200s, and I was like toying. I'm like, oh, how far can he drop? Could I take him in like the 14th round? But yeah, like he definitely shouldn't be going past the 8th round. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. As you're coming up on your picks, kind of looking at some of these, we got Marchenko, Stolars, Logan Thompson. You go Dylan Genther in the 8th round, another steal, similar to the Kirill Marchenko. Tomas Hertl and you dog taking Elias Pettersson from me as I was the one who was going to talk about him and take him. So, great pick by you, Ryan. Can't hate on that. Doesn't get much better than that in the 9th round, as you were saying, to take him in the 7th or 8th.
Yeah, well, feel free to talk about him. What do you like about him?
Pretty much everything at that value. Not bad. Especially again, he has left wing eligibility in this format, so that's crazy.
Yeah, we already kind of discussed him. I'm super happy with even if he's down at 65 points. I believe his pace, if he were to play 82 last year. Let's take a look. His pace was 58 points. So, I mean, even if he gets 60 points and some hits to go at it, like 9th round isn't terrible for that. And it might burn me a bit if he does that, but I think he'll get back to 70 points. And then I do go Genther in the 8th round, which I think is great value. He's in the second half of last season. He was one of the league leaders in shot attempts. I believe he was 3rd in the league in the second half of the season behind Ovechkin and Kaprizov. And I think that is a good sign of things to continue into this season. So I do see his shots on goal to get a little bit higher this year, including goals. And I think he's a fixture on that top power play. I think we can't go wrong with Dylan Genther in the 8th round.
No, that's insane. I was getting Dylan Genther in the 8th round again last year, and then not mistakenly, but traded him after he popped off at the beginning of the year. But in my format, I traded him I had too many right wings was my issue. So I traded him for Nick Suzuki, who in the second half of the season did really well. So I didn't really hate it, but it was pretty fair considering the winger for center trade. Question here. Yahoo mocks have started. Yes, they have, and we're in one. And all you guys in the comments, consider after this draft, we're going to be doing another one, and we will open it up to you guys. We'll try and find a draft that we can all hop in together, Apples and Ginos listeners and watchers, and then get some heavier competition here.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Who'd you go with in the 9th and 10th there?
Let's see. I went with Rupe Hintz as I feel I was fading centers too much. So in the 9th round, don't hate it. And then I went Alex Tuck in the 10th round, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I think I was taking him in the 6th round, 5th round even, in those best balls. So can't hate on that. At this point, I'm searching. I'm like, oh, can I find an insane value pick here? But I do think we have some sharp drafters, and I won't wait on this guy. I think it's a good spot to actually take Kadri at the end of the 9th round, maybe into the 10th. And then we are going to go.
Yeah, Kadri there was good. I was looking at him versus Rupe Hintz actually, which I think going back, maybe I would choose it. I have we're kind of on somewhat opposites of the spectrum when it comes to Dallas, as we've said before. But I think that top line is going to roll, so I don't dislike that. And then you get Mika Zibanejad, who is right wing eligible here. Great pick in the 11th round. What do you think Flores Zibanejad, I think this year has got to be like 65 points. I mean, the guy still puts it up. He's had this decline, but I don't buy the narrative that he can't get there.
Yeah, again, I have New Jersey. I mean, not New Jersey. I have the Rangers improving on the power play. They just had an abysmal power play last year, and they had an elite one the year prior. So I do see some improvement there, and New York to turn it around a bit. And I think Zibanejad has that power play spot locked in. So I do see like 65 points as Zibanejad's floor, as long as he stays on that first power play unit. We were getting sniped. I was getting sniped a little bit because I had some guys in my queue, and then after I took Kadri, I'm like, oh yeah, my queue is clear, and so I was panicking a bit, but I was happy to take Zibanejad there.
All right, I'm on the clock. There are some good comments here if you want to get into those, Ryan.
Yes.
See who I get here.
We got a question. How high are you guys on Leo Carlson? I believe it's Leo Carlson. And then another question about Carlson, Fantilli, or Bedard. So I'm not so high on Leo Carlson this year. I like Anaheim to turn things around, but I don't know if Leo Carlson is that like top forward to do it. I think they're like, as much as there's a new coach and they can turn things around in terms of ice time, I do think they have 9 top guys, 3 good lines, and I think all 3 of those top 9 lines will get good ice time. So I think that limits any upside on Carlson for sure. I gotta go Bedard first. Just the talent is there, and he can possibly take another step above point per game. And then I'm going Fantilli. Then I'm going Carlson.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Fantilli is, if they didn't have Boone Jenner and Sean Monahan, and he was given the keys to be a top line, top power play player, I think we'd see 70 point plus, 30 goal, close to a point per game player. He is absolutely elite when he was given the keys last year.
Yeah, I mean, he had an insane shooting percentage to like finish the season, but I think he has so much talent that he could increase his shots and or maintain a high shooting percentage. I do have him for like above 30 goals again, and around 65 points. And I mean, if he gets to me, I'm taking him here and at the end of the 12th round.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Hopefully no one else is in here already from YouTube. So I went Boone Jenner and Nugent Hopkins. Both are left wing eligible in this format. I love Boone Jenner in drafts this year. There is a question about his health, as he's had some issues with that, I think, based on the physicality that he plays with. But he is a category coverage monster. I still think he maintains the role in the top power play there in Columbus. And I think with that young team just getting better and better, he's still going to get at least 50 points and then really good periffs. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is kind of a question mark to me, but this late in the draft, we're talking about 12th round Nugent-Hopkins, top power play in Edmonton. I want a piece of that.
Yeah, I was looking at him when I was drafting Zibanejad. I almost considered him. That's in great value. He's a lock on that top power play, and that top power play is Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, and you're coming up on your pick here. We had Cutter Gauthier go, Cole Perfetti, Brock Faber, Zeev Buyan. You're getting in on the clock. Let's see if Ryan takes a goalie here. Highly doubtful. I'm looking at some of these other guys. Colton Parayko. Then we got Devon Tays even before that. Eric Carlson in the 11th round's really good. You did, in fact, go Fantilli, which I don't hate in the 12th round whatsoever. Gustav Forsling, Bo Horvat, and you go Morgan Riley, which you're fading defensemen, but you end up getting a defenseman that could get back to the kind of 50-plus point range back on that top power play.
Yeah, I think the Leafs are going 1D on the power play this year, and that D is Riley. And I did want to just take 3 defensemen and maybe add one in the last round of the draft just for some flexibility. But Morgan Riley here, it's too good value to pass up. And I had someone else in my queue that I think will still get to me at the end of the 14th round. So happy to stack the D here and be happy with 4D.
Sure. Yeah, I'm trying to look at the defenseman myself to see if there's any value there. Brock Nelson, Dylan Strome, Thatcher Demko. Demko going later in most of these drafts. We got another comment here. Why is Dylan Strome falling so much in drafts? I think probably because that point total that he got last year was on that Washington team that was chasing the Ovechkin goal total, and they vastly overperformed what everyone thought they could do. I still think he's going to be top line, top power play, and I can't discount that, but he's not a big periff guy. He doesn't shoot a ton. He doesn't hit or block. So for my money, I'm not big on him higher. I mean, he's still like a good center, but I'd say he's kind of toward the back end of, where you want to be getting a center. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. He had a point per game last year, and everything went perfectly on Washington. They led the league in shooting percentage, and that's not going to happen again. Teams don't do that 2 years in a row. And Dylan Strome had a high shooting percentage. Ovechkin surprisingly had his highest even strength shooting percentage, I think, of his career, if not the last 12 years. So I do see some regression there in Washington, and Dylan Strome too. And then, the center only really hurts his value as by the 12th round or 11th round, where you might actually consider taking him, you probably already have your centers full, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of went with Matt Zuccarello. I think in most of these drafts you can get him pretty late, but I mean, we're in the 13th, 14th round, so I really like that, him to get 60, 70 points this year. And then I went Alexander Romanov for those shots and blocks. And then we got some more. Pavel Buchnevich I considered taking as well. You go Freddie Anderson, which great pick on the goalie there. Patrick Kane goes. I thought about taking him. Tyler Toffoli, you're back on the clock. These 30 seconds to draft, man, I wish they had this in almost every draft. We'd have some crazy teams if you only had 30 seconds.
Yeah, for sure. And these are the last 2 rounds. So you got 2 picks as your last picks coming up. So I'm taking my goalies here. I think we're at 0G territory, where if you take a goalie here, you're not really tied to them. You'll be happy to drop them if the wheels fall off. So I go with Freddie Anderson, who I think has shown he could be one of the best goalies in the league when he's playing. He might not play, and if he gets injured or starts the season injured, I will happily put him on the IR and pick up Jet Greaves when he steals the show from Merzlikins.
Absolutely. And you're going to get him at really good value for that Vezina. And I love that. So let's see.
And then I took Stuart Skinner, which, everyone is so low on Stuart Skinner. They think he's a terrible NHL goaltender, just what he's not been able to do in the playoffs. But he's their starter. He's their game 1 starter as of now, unless they make a big move. And on Edmonton, one of the best teams in the league, I'll take that starter. And if he's terrible, I'm happy to drop him.
Bounce him. Yeah, absolutely. And then we got more comments. Muck, thoughts on Logan Thompson this year? He definitely raised his stock for me. And I think realistically in a lot of drafts, if you're going 0G, he could be an option, because I don't think many people will be on Logan Thompson personally. So I think you're going to get him at good value for what he's going to provide. I just don't know what Washington as a team is going to be around him. So that's my only worry, not with the individual player, but with kind of how the team's going to perform. And then that
I actually really like Logan Thompson. I think the past few years he's been very consistent. He's not going to get the bulk of starts, but in category leagues like this, you're going to want a consistent goalie, even if they get 1 or 2 starts a week. If they're not killing you with really bad starts, they can put up some quality starts. which Logan Thompson can do at a high percentage, they're going to help your team. So I'm very happy to take goalies, even in a timeshare in this type of league, who will provide some consistent value. And I think Logan Thompson will still be able to do that, even if Washington doesn't score as many goals.
Absolutely. I don't dislike that at all. And you go with Will Goalie as your last pick, which in category coverage, that's really good for your last pick.
Yeah, I was the guy who I thought would drop to the end of the 14th round, got sniped. Kiefer the Beaver Sherwood. I was going to take him and hope for 10 hits a game, but right now in my last pick, I'll take Will Goalie, who I have him getting loads of hits and having a pretty good year in the top 6 in New York.
Absolutely. What do you think, Ryan? We're going to head over to a different mock draft, see kind of what the board's looking like over there to hop in another one, see if we can find one in, what do you think, about 6 minutes, we think?
Yeah, sounds perfect. Let's hop in that one on Yahoo. Apples and Ginos, guys, feel free to join. It's the 12 team that's happening in 6 minutes. It's Power Play 208-2884. You seen the same one, Evan?
I am, and I'm going to take the first overall pick here, if you don't mind. It's not a great spot, I feel like, in a lot of times. I would almost rather be drafting third in a lot of spots. What do you feel like? That's another good point to bring up. I mean, obviously you like getting the first overall pick, but the spots where you're kind of back to back, how do you feel on those? I don't necessarily love those spots in a lot of drafts for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think right near there, where in the 11, the 10, the 2 or the 3, you can kind of predict what the guy at 1 or at 12 might have to do by looking at their team. Again, you want some more time than 30 seconds on the clock to do so. But I think in my real drafts, if I'm at 11 and I know a certain someone's at 12, I'm like, oh, I can hold off on this one, take the guy that he likes that I know I can't get in the next round, and I think his radar doesn't have this one on. So yeah. I agree. I like 10 or 11 or 2 or 3.
Even, yeah. So in, like you said, in like your normal drafts, you're going to have all of your tools, all of the necessary things that you have with your draft plans, and probably have some guys that you're set up for. But there's still some times I feel like when I've gone back to back, when, you know, a guy gets taken two picks, 1 pick ahead of you, and then it changes your whole kind of outlook. But I understand what you're saying. And then, so we got some more comments here, and we can briefly touch on some of our picks. Would you take Gabriel Landeskog? If so, how high would you take him? I definitely would consider taking Landeskog. For me, I do have injury concerns about him, even though he did play well in the playoffs. In most like standard points formats, I'd probably consider taking him in, let's say, like the 9th round. Ryan, is that too high for you? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a bit high for me, just because there's so many unknowns on what's going to happen with him, and if he's truly at 100% full health. You know, he missed a whole season. And then came back in the playoffs to play three seasons ago, I believe. And then he missed the whole other regular season after that. So he did that last year again, where he missed the whole season, came back to the playoffs, looked great. I would just be concerned to spend like a top 10 pick, top 11 pick. Rounds, not in the first round, on him if he doesn't play, or if he can't play at his elite level. So I would be taking him later in the draft, maybe in the 14th round.
Wow, that's pretty late. I feel like people, it's like recency bias, right? Like people saw him in the playoffs. So I feel like in a lot of mocks that we've done, he's gone a lot higher than that. But to your point, the injury thing does really concern me. And I kind of got burned by stashing him on my IR. I actually used like a fairly, I can't remember what pick it was, but it wasn't like my last pick to take him in one of my real drafts last year to then stash him on IR thinking he would come back much earlier. And we all know that he didn't until the end of the year, and it didn't affect fantasy hockey. So yeah, you can get burned with some of those long-term injuries like that for sure.
So I'm happy our listeners, I think our listeners got into this draft room with us. It's been full for a bit, and I see some familiar names. It's going to start in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. In the meantime, I think let's go over what just happened. It happened pretty quick. 30 seconds on the clock. There's not a lot of time to think, but I'll go through my team first. At the 1-2, we got Nathan McKinnon. No, nothing to talk about there. 2-11, I took Evan Bouchard, which I love, getting an elite D at the end of the second round. And then I took Artemi Panarin in the third round. Brandon Hagel in the fourth round. Again, that's value to me. Roman Josi in the fifth. That's value to me. Jake Sanderson in the sixth. Again, these guys are all guys I would consider in the third round. All of my top 6 players. And then I get into Kevin Fiala and Dylan Genther in the 7th and 8th, who in a standard draft, I might actually be considering them in the 5th and 6th round. I'm tooting my own horn here, but there's nothing really impressive here in the Yahoo mock drafts. And then we have Elias Pettersson at 9, Kadri at 10, Zibanejad at 11, Fantilli 12. I don't think these are insanely value picks, but they're guys that I think at their position should outperform. But I was hoping to get a few other guys that got sniped in this range. And then I took Morgan Riley with my 4th last pick to have a pretty great D as my 4th D. And then my 2 goalies are very 0G, given that they're in the last 3 rounds taken. I took Freddie Anderson and Stuart Skinner. And then I padded my hits with Will Cooley as my last pick. Rip me apart, Evan. What do you think?
Man, can we all just give Ryan a big round of applause for that? What an absolute killer in this Yahoo mock. He certainly beat me. It's kind of weird. I'm like trying to leave the draft board up here, so I can't go to the queue and go to my players quick. I'm just kind of quickly trying to do it. So that's going to be my excuse for my team. But as we got like 2 minutes before we get into this, I'll briefly go over mine. Really love your team. Like you said, you got a ton of value everywhere, Ryan. So I went Zach Werenski. I think he's not necessarily at value there, but it's kind of where he should go. Kyle Connor at the beginning of the second, I think is where he should go as well. Tage in the third, I think is value, especially at right wing eligibility here. Macklin Celebrini was an auto draft for me as I was trying to take Matt Boldy. Couldn't figure out that he got drafted before me and it went. So, but that's fine. Still love Celebrini. Seth Jarvis in the 5th, I think is huge value. He's tri-eligible. He gets everything done. Wyatt Johnson in the 6th, great value. I think Harley in the 7th could be really good value too. I do think he's going to be the top power play D there. Seth Jones in the 8th, extreme value. Hintz in the 9th, not necessarily great value, but still like him. I think that's probably where he goes in a lot of spots. Tuck in the 10th might be my best pick. Boone Jenner at the 11th, I still really like with left-wing eligibility in this format. Nugent Hopkins at the 12, Zuccarello 13, Romanov 14, and then my 2 0G options, Dostal and Joseph Wool. Don't hate Lucas Dostal with all those off-night goalie wins. I think Anaheim's going to be better this year in the second to last. Rip my team apart. You tell me.
All right, I'll
rip it easier apart. To do.
Here we go. I'll rip it apart. You took Romanov as your last D.
Yep.
There's no blocks. There's no blocks in this league. So there we go. I'm ripping it apart. He loses a bit of value.
Do I have to go into the draft league settings here? Maybe we'll just add blocks we'll change this to a custom league, maybe fair. I didn't take that into account, but I do love Romanov. But yeah, that's a good point. I didn't consider that.
That's all right. I just needed something to chirp you on. Everything else is amazing on your team. I really like your goalies, Lucas Dostal. I think a lot of people target him in points leagues and volume leagues, but last season he showed that he can actually provide a lot of nice value in these category leagues with wins, goals against average, save percentage, shutouts, and I think Anaheim will only improve. So I really like Dostal as a 0G option. And then Joseph Woll, he might only play half the games, but again, I'm a big proponent of taking timeshare goalies who might not play that many games, but still provide great statistical coverage. If he gets even 2 wins in a week or even 1 win with good category coverage of goals against average and save percentage, that's just as valuable as someone who plays 4 games in a week who is, getting shelled.
Absolutely. I do really like Joseph Woll. I think with the emergence of Anthony Stolarz, Woll is kind of falling in a lot of drafts as a 0G option. So I really do like that take. Let's go back to Lucio here in the comments. Are there any teams that you aren't touching this year? I'm staying away from the Kraken, San Jose, Pens, and Blues. For me personally, I don't really like per se stay away from any particular team. I just find the value in the individual player. Ryan, I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think the only times you're taking into account like really just looking at the team is a schedule analysis, and I think that comes into play in the best balls a lot, where you're really looking for those off nights. So Seattle isn't really great on their off night schedule, so that's where in like some best balls I'm avoiding them, but yeah, not avoiding them, looking at individual players. So
Absolutely.
we are going here in our second draft here with some sharp drafters. Um, you're at the one. You took Nate McKinnon. Oh, I took McKinnon in the last draft. Am I inspiring you, Evan?
Really great value here, Ryan. At any pick, we got the same. See, Kaprizov's going higher and higher, especially with the left wing here. But I really like that. Man, somebody is going to get Cale Makar at at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At the 7 to 8 spot, Cale Makar. Ooh, I was hoping he would fall to you right there. That would have been a sight to see.
That would have been great. And then another guy takes Ferensky at 9, leaving me Brady Kachuk. I'll fill those categories. But yeah, I do think we have some Apples and Ginos listeners in here, just according to how that first round went with Cap, Werenski, and the top 4 there. And then we have Rantanen and Hughes going after.
Kyle Connor after that. Kyle Connor, it's crazy. He was going like I feel like in third rounds a lot last year, and after his kind of back-to-back performances of 80 plus point seasons, 40 plus goals, I feel like he's kind of locked it in as a high second round option. Some people ended the first, and you get it back with Philip Forsberg here. You couldn't let him slip past you this time.
Yeah, I couldn't hope for third round Forsberg, especially at this side of the draft. He's just insanely valuable in leagues that count shots and hits, which this one does. So I got Brady Kachuk, Philip Forsberg. So far, I'm the league leader in shots and hits, right?
That's right. And you're going to keep it up. I'm not going to push you for hits this time. I'm just going to try and do my own thing because I feel like you got in my head and I made some off the board picks. But no surprises here. We got Jack Hughes after that, Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel, Hellebuck goes in the second like that. Rasmus Dahlin, another sharp pick. Jack Hughes here, I believe, is left wing eligible, which him going at the 2-4 with left wing eligibility to me is insane. Considering we got someone like Kaprizov going at the 5th spot. If Jack Hughes, man, I saw this, I forget who put it out, it might have been Dauber, like a funny meme about why do you keep drafting Jack Hughes and then he gets injured every year? And the meme is like the guy crying and said, you wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand. If you just look at his analytics and the way he plays, man, if he was healthy and put it all together, he could easily have that 100-point season.
Yeah, I agree. I did a little bit of a deep dive recently, actually this past week, on looking into Jack Hughes's injuries, and I delved through the highlights of the past like 5 years. I looked at every injury, and I've come to a little bit of a conclusion where I don't know if these are freak accidents, or if like it has nothing to do with Hughes and how he is as a player. A lot of them, he's like in this relaxed stance and just kind of like chilling, waiting for the puck, or like trying to dangle and not really in a strong, stable stance. And then he gets literally like falls down and gets smashed into the boards. And then his shoulders seem to be made of glass. So again, I used to be, I ignore injury risk, but I think with Jack Hughes, like, I don't know, there's just something about him that seems to be like he's not very protective in his hockey stance, and I wouldn't touch him in the first round, to be honest. But I'm happy to take him in the second round. If he misses 20 games and I put him on the IR, I can find a sharp waiver pick. What do
I
you
think
think
that's
about that?
interesting.
Do you have an image of like how Jack Hughes plays in your mind? I want to show you all these highlights one day.
No, I totally understand that. I haven't looked into it that deep, but that's an interesting thought. I almost feel like it's like, when Connor McDavid like broke his clavicle and everything speeding into the boards, like I feel like Jack Hughes, like you said, he doesn't like learn from the fact that he's injured himself that many times and like kind of like correct that. So that's a good point to bring up. I just something about, the talent of the player. I feel like Nate always says it on a lot of their projections and podcasts. Like you never want to be out on the talent of the player. And he is, an easy first round talent if you could put it all together. But it's a really interesting point that you bring up in terms of his ability to protect his own body and stay healthy, because it's definitely been proven to be the case this far in his career. Mackenzie Weegar in the third still. Vazzy third, or the second goalie going on the third. I go Sam Reinhart at the last pick in the second round, and then 3-1 Tage Thompson. Rip me apart on those picks.
Can't do that. Can't rip you apart there. Yeah,
Tage back to back. I'm a Tage guy,
back
man.
to back. A little early on Tage, but if you believe in the player, gotta get him. What do you have? Like, I know you don't do like full projections or anything, but what do you think your prediction on goals and points for Tage is?
I think I have to have. He's going to get 40 plus goals for me. The question is how many assists he's going to get. I think that if he stays healthy, I'm not discounting like an 80-point season, 40 goals. I'd like to see him get more shots, and I know that he can do it. It's kind of weird when you look at his shot totals because he does miss the net quite a bit. With the velocity of that shot, he had the hardest shot in the NHL recorded last year. And if he can put a few more on net, and if they can only put Alex Tuch on his line again, I think we get some of that magic. I don't want to say it was Jeff Skinner that put it all together with that line that year that he got 90 points, but he's proven that he can do it. And I think if you watch him with his size, his shot, his hands, he's got it all, man. He's a great individual player. If he was on any other team than Buffalo, I think he'd be going in the first round.
Yeah, I agree with that. And maybe not any other team, but most teams.
Most teams.
And yeah, but the fact is he's on Buffalo, which definitely hurts his ceiling. I think just like even if he plays with Tuch, Tuch's asked to do a lot out there on the defensive side of things too. So even if he's on a line with Tuch, that line is now going to be sort of a shutdown line for the top players on the other team, and Tage might get a fewer amounts of offensive zone starts, draws, and a few less chances. They're going to have to make their own chances from the defensive zone.
I think it's weird. I'll get over Tage in a second, but I've had him on my team so many years and traded for him. Watching him is kind of weird because when he is in the defensive zone, I feel like he tries to go for a pickpocket, and if he doesn't get it, he almost does the Nikita Kucherov where he kind of stands at the blue line and kind of waits for the pass. So I feel like you said Tuch is such a good forechecker and able to get the puck back that maybe he could get at the Tage a little more. But talk to me about your picks here, going back to back. Clayton Keller and Marty Nikas in the third and fourth round is amazing. I feel like both those guys are 2 rounds behind, especially considering Clayton Keller is dual eligible in Yahoo format.
Yeah, love the dual eligibility, and that's why I took him first. I think he really broke out last year with 90 points, and Utah is just on a great trajectory to improve even more this year. They were a top 5 team in Corsi 4 to finish the season last year. It didn't really turn into a lot of goals for them or expected goals. I think it will this year. They brought in Peterka, who is very dangerous, and I think all the young guys there are going to take another step. So really liking Keller to keep doing what he was doing last year. And then Marty Nikas on Colorado now, playing with Nathan MacKinnon, which is a reason that Mikko Rantanen was getting over 100 points many seasons, and I think Marty Nikas should be good for 85 plus points here, and has some ceiling for more if he finds really good chemistry with Nate.
Absolutely. Pick I want to highlight again. Roman Josi in the 4th round, I think, is really good value. Tim Stützle here is a left-wing eligible player in the 4th, is really good as well. I got sniped on Adam Fox. I would have loved him in the 4th or 5th for one of my picks, but I go Travis Konechny and Jake Sanderson. Now, I was kind of digging in a little bit on Travis Konechny, and I'm curious to your thoughts, Ryan. With the emergence of Michkov, and then we get Rick Tocchet in there, Tortorella is no more. So I don't think Konechny is going to be asked to do as much defensively, or even if he is, I think he's going to be given the reins to do a little bit more offensively and be stapled to that top line with Michkov and the top power play. He also plays shorthanded, which I think is interesting. I think his time on ice was over 20 minutes last year. I think his ability to get points this upcoming year. What do you have in that projection-wise? Because I think he is due for a pretty big year.
Yeah, I like him. I like the player. Taking him here is not bad. I think that he'll actually play with Michkov a little more, and Michkov will be up there on the top lines with him. I got him for 72 points. I got Michkov for 75. I have them working together nicely. It's my pick. I got sniped by. Oh no, he's still there. At this point, I think we do have some sharper drafters in the room here, so I can't let Fiala slide. I gotta snag him for the 2nd draft in a row. I think I took him in the 7th round last draft, but I'm taking him in the 5th round here.
Yeah.
What do you think about my Konechny? Sorry, taking it back to Konechny. 72 points. Do you see more than that?
I think I do. I think Konechny could get closer to 80 points point per game. It's really my question is his goal total, because if he's going to be passing to Michkov a lot and then Michkov is going to be the shooter on that line, is that going to take away from his goals? But I think it will work synergistically for better for both players, especially when Tortorella is not threatening to bench Michkov, or, if you make one bad play, they're getting yelled at and taking the whole team down. So I think Konechny's a leader in that locker room, and I just love his ice time and his ability. I took Jake Sanderson at the 5-1, which was, did you get him in the 6th round last time? I think you did.
I think so, but very different.
One round sharper, one round sharper than me, but one step forward, 2 steps back for me. But I love Jake Sanderson too. And then I love Kevin Fiala. You got to go get your guys, as Blake always says. So Kevin Fiala, great pick. Sergachev, I was considering too. I think he's kind of in a similar tier to me to Jake Sanderson. I don't know. I think there was one mock where you kind of think I took him a little high. I think it was 4th round though, Jake Sanderson. But what do you, or Miguel Sergachev? What do you think about Sergachev this year? Because I'm curious about your take on that.
Yeah, in that mock, I think you took him in the 5th round, which, I just see Sergachev doing what he did last year, which I think in the 5th round was a little early to take him, but I was eyeing him there to take instead of Fiala. I was just giving you a hard time for not getting the value on him, but I think you took him. I think in the 6th round, that's a good spot to take him.
And then you go Timo Meier, which is really good for Cats. And I just, again, if he gets on that top power play, that's going to be a lethal pick for a lot of people in the kind of middle rounds. But we hoped and prayed for it all last year. I feel like a lot of people drafted him or traded for him, and we just never got it. I just hope that he gets back up there, man. Yeah,
he had quite the down year last year. And I believe Nate and Blake were talking about him in their projection series, and they were talking about like 60, 65 points as his floor. I gotta say, I disagree with that. I do think, because like we saw his floor last year, he only had 54 points, and I think that could happen again if he's left off the power play all season, which I don't think will happen. I have some faith that he'll get put back on that top power play. That's what I haven't projected for. So I do have him projected closer to his ceiling, actually, to get 64 points. Maybe I'm off here, where they were projecting him for around 60 points as his floor. But yeah, I have him close to his ceiling at 64 points, but lots of shots and lots of hits. So don't hate that there.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this too. So I go with, getting back to the draft results. I go with DeBrincat and Ehlers in the 6th and 7th round, which I'm pretty happy with. Dual eligible. Both of those players could easily go off for 30 plus goals, 65 to 70 points. The more I'm looking at it, the more I really like Nick Ehlers' situation in Carolina, despite the kind of rhetoric that Carolina only plays their guys a certain amount of time, because he's going to get that opportunity on the top line, top power play, at least to start, I think, with Aho. And I think that's really good for him. If he can stay healthy, I think his projection should be really high.
Yeah, I mean, he chose to go there. Maybe he doesn't know what they do there, what Rob Brindamore does there with the ice time, but I think he would. So I think he'll, I think he's in a good spot. He's not going to have it worse than when he was on Winnipeg, that's for sure. And I think, at the 6-7 turn there, DeBrincat and Ehlers both dual eligible. I think that's amazing for your team.
DeBrincat in the 6 feels so good to me wearing this Red Wings hat. Like, I normally don't take a ton of Red Wings players because I feel like their value is kind of nuked in some drafts, but in the 6th round, DeBrincat, sign me up. I'm going to get back to some comments here as you're coming up on your picks, Ryan. I feel like I've been missing out. Is Zach Werenski really a first-round pick this year? For me, I absolutely do think that's the case. We kind of touched on why. He's going to be a 70-plus point defenseman. He will be close to Kale McCarr in terms of shots from the back end as well. He may get the most ice time or close to it as well, too. So I really like that still. End of the first, beginning of the second, Zach Werenski. At what point is Matthew Tkachuk good value with the injury concerns? I personally am not touching Matthew Tkachuk until we can get some more concrete information on what's going to happen if he does get the surgery and what the timeline is going to be. I think that another Crabbrave said I wouldn't touch him in the first 6 rounds, which I would concur with. And then we got some more comments here. And Ryan, as you're coming up on your pick real quickly, what are your point projections for Fiala? I don't know if you can pull that up real quick, but since you took him in both mocks, I'll let you get into that.
Yeah, we'll do. Fiala, I got for 77 points, 28 on the power play. So very nice bounce back. I think he's the most offensively talented guy on LA. And last year, him, Byfield, who's the other guy on that line with him and Byfield?
Lafreniere.
Who they had.
Alex Lafreniere.
Right. Yeah, that line was getting more ice time than Kopitar and Kempe. And so I think that is the top line in LA, 77 points. What do you think about that, Evan?
77, I think it's possible. It might be a bit high for my taste, but like you said, they're getting the ice time, and that's the big thing. If there's that whole narrative about the second half Fiala, right? And it's kind of weird because you look at it and there is some truth to it a lot of times. But if he could just string that together for the entire season, imagine what he could do. But yeah, no, I do really like Kevin Fiala. I think he's super underrated. And he's just proven that he's that guy, like easily 70 plus points. 77 feels about right to me too.
Yeah. And then my pick, I actually made a little bit of a mistake. I was scrolling down those expert ranks and being like, oh, where's my value here? And I was looking at Valeri Nichushkin, who I'm like, oh man, expert rank in the 200s. I want to add him to my queue. And instead of adding him to the queue, I drafted him. But honestly, I'm fine with it. Where did I take him at the end of the 7th round? He hasn't played a full season in a very, very long time. I don't know if he ever has, but at this point, these players who will either get injured or take some time off, I can stash them on the IR plus and find a replacement level player. And when Nichushkin is playing, he's a 70-point pace guy. He's going to play in the top 6, probably that top power play in Colorado, which is elite. So It's a mistake, but I'm fine with the mistake.
You could make a worse mistake, honestly. Val Nichushkin almost single-handedly won me my league 2 years ago before he got banned from the for hitting the stash. But it's one of those things where I am curious about his deployment. Right, if Gabe Landeskog stays healthy, does he get top line, top power play? Because he didn't for a period of time. So, I am curious to see if that comes to be. What do you think the top power play looks like in Colorado there?
Yeah, I do think he'll I think sorry, give me a sec. Let me pull up what I got going on in Colorado. But I do have the top power play as McKinnon, Makar, Nichus, Nichushkin, and either Landeskog or Arturi Lehkonen. I think Landeskog and Lehkonen are the bubble players, and Nichushkin is more of a lock. Again, I think people are going to miss time. I think Nichushkin might miss time. Lehkonen might miss time. Landeskog might miss time, so I think they'll all have their opportunities on power play one at times in the season, and I'll be happy to have either one on my team.
Yeah. And I think both of them, like, you're going to get at value, to get the piece of the top power play, this kind of late in your draft. I feel like you're going to be laughing in a lot of spots. And I do think Nichushkin, like, is the best fit on that top power play. Curiously enough, like, I think he's really great net front around the net. And he can snipe it from kind of in the middle range slot area, underrated part of his game. So I really don't dislike that. As we're coming up on some of your picks, I went Miro Heiskanen at the 8-12 and then Tomas Hertl at the 9-1. Tomas Hertl in this format is left wing eligible, so I feel like that is a great spot for him. Any thoughts on those two picks before you get in on yours, Ryan?
Yeah, Heiskanen I think has a lot of upside here in the draft. It does kind of hurt that Thomas Harley did drop a lot in this draft. I think he got taken in the 8th round, so not so much higher than Heiskanen, but he doesn't have that top power play locked down. I do think he'll take it, but who knows what Heiskanen can do if he's really healthy, and who knows if he's the better match there. As you keep, I did have Heiskanen on my radar, but now I'm looking for my first defenseman here because a lot of these sharp drafters really value the defenseman early, which I think they should, and they're putting me in trouble here.
Yeah, no, they are sharp for sure. Some of the Pittsburgh guys, Brian Rust and Erik Karlsson going in the 9th round. I like that. Svechnikov as well in the 9th is pretty good for a Cats format. Verhaeghe in the 9th round is a really good pick, and I considered that between him and Tomas Hertl actually. And you go with you're going with the same guys, Vince Dunn and Adam Fantilli. But when they're good and at good value, you just got to keep rolling with them, right?
Yeah. Vince Dunn. Again, he showed last year that there's two top defenders, two top offensive defenders in Seattle, and I think they will continue to do what they did last year. They were both really valuable. Montour with the more of the shooter, and Vince Dunn more of an all-around offensive guy. And I think Vince Dunn will get 50 points again this year.
This is crazy to me. The start of the 10th round, Igor Shesterkin at the 10-1 for 0G. I love that.
There we go.
That's some pretty good stuff. This is how you know it's an Apples and Ginos Yahoo mock draft for sure. So I love that. Nugent Hopkins, we kind of touched on. I think that's a great spot for him at the 10-2, left wing eligible. Fantilli, I love here. Barzal at the 10-4, right wing eligible. Great stuff. We've touched on him in a few of our other mock drafts. Stamkos is tri-eligible in this format, really good. And someone takes Morgan Riley from me. Sean, congratulations. Very good stuff at the 10-7. Sorokin goes at the 10-8. Quentin Byfield. Kind of recap some of these with me, Ryan. Any of those jumping out to you?
Yeah, I mean, they were a lot of them on my radar. Nugent Hopkins, Barzal, I almost took Barzal. And then Morgan Riley, I was like hoping that people were done drafting defensemen so that I could start drafting some, but it looks like they aren't. And then we got some more goalies being taken here. Ilya Sorokin in the 10th round and Linus Ullmark in the 10th round. These are all really great value, and it's in a 0G draft. Another interesting pick here, Sam Rinzel got taken. I know D are flying off the board, but Sam Rinzel in the 10th round surprises me. I think he's more of like an upside swing, where in the 10th round, Klaus, I'm just going to look at his team for a second, see, is this like his last defenseman? No, it's his second defenseman. So he's got Sam Rinzel as his second defenseman. I don't love that. I think that can hurt a lot. Rinzel might get some top power play time, but I think in Chicago they're going to try a lot of different options there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You know what's interesting to me is I keep going back to this, but I don't want to hate on him with right wing eligibility. So I go with Philip Gustafson because these goalies were convincing me. I just took a brief look at the goalies and I was like, what kind of value do we have here? Philip Gustafson, one of my buddies took him in one of our drafts in the later rounds, and he ended up being one of the best goalies in the league. So I think he's really kind of good. And once Minnesota's now healthy, even more support for him. So I'll take that as one of my goalies off the board here. And then Matt Duchene, right wing eligible, point per game. I don't dislike that. The thing with Dallas that I really find interesting is even though they have, the top two lines, top power play, I don't think if for the majority of last year when the top power play wasn't rolling, it was the second power play that was actually getting to work. So I think kind of the Miro Heiskanen and Thomas Harley talk, I still think there's value for some of these guys on the second power play if any of them end up there. Obviously not as much as the first, and we're going to see how the new coach kind of implements that with the timing of it. But I'll kind of let you get your picks here before you rebuttal on that. Darcy Kemper, great. I kind of debated between him and Gustafson. Any quick thoughts on that Dallas spiel from me?
Yeah, no, I like it, and that's what originally scared me away from a lot of Dallas top guys was more of that split. But I do think they will lean heavier on the top unit this year with Mason Marchment's gone. Jamie Benn is even older, and I think that they have 5 great options in Johnston, Hintz, Robertson, Rantanen, and then a defender. But I could honestly see Matt Duchene getting on there instead of Hintz or instead of Johnston as well, because he's so good on that power play. How many power play points did he have last year? I think more than a lot of the first guys
Johnston. Yeah. No,
yes.
he's proven, man. It's crazy. And with him at right wing eligible, I don't want to be out on him this late. I mean, every year it's funny listening to Nate and Blake's projections, and every year Blake's so low on Matt Duchene, and every year Matt Duchene rubs it in his face. So with center only, I'm a little bit more leery on that situation, but if he's right wing eligible, all day. And that's kind of what I'm doing here in some of these Yahoo mocks is the more positions that a player has for me, I'm kind of looking at it and being like, oh, that's nice. And then you draft them maybe a little bit more than you would in other formats. And so you go back-to-back goalies here. Talk to us about these guys.
Yeah, so in this this type of league, this is a categories league with wins, goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. Something that I've been working on the last few years is these constructs that lead into what I call the true value goalie rankings. And it really points to goalie consistency. And that's what I think is more important in these categories leagues. If you just look at the cumulative stats at the end of the season and you see someone has a 920 save percentage, you don't know what went on week to week. And these are weekly head-to-head leagues. And it's possible that this guy had 960 save percentage one week, 850 the next, 960 again, 850 again. And that's someone who is only returning value to you half the time. You can look at the cumulative stats, and he's crushing it on a season long, but that's only good for season long rotisserie leagues. So what I've created are these true value constructs like quality weeks, really bad weeks, and star weeks. And the 2 goalies that I took here, I think are very valuable because Darcy Kemper, he had a quality week 83% of the time, and he only had 1 really bad week all season. And then Anthony Stolarz was the second best when you account for the total amount of weeks. He had a quality week 78% of the time, and he only had 3 really bad weeks. So these are just consistent goalies that I'm getting in the 12th and 11th round. I'm very happy to do that.
That's really great stuff. And that's why you provide the value here, Ryan. These takes, this information, these analytics that you're looking at. I just look at a team and I'm like, hey, are they a good team? Let me get their goalie.
So, hey, that works. I took a LA Kings goalie and a Toronto Maple Leafs goalie. They are great defensive teams.
Great defensively, exactly. As you're on the clock here, I'll touch briefly on my picks. I stole yours from last time. So 12th round Beaver Sherwood to get me all my hits for category coverage. I think he's still good for another like 40 points too. Pavel Buchnevich is another interesting one, I think. So Buchnevich in the 13th round, this guy has gotten, 70 plus points and he's try eligible. I feel like Buchnevich, again, we talk about how St. Louis splits their power plays and everything, but he was tied to Robert Thomas a lot, and I really believe in the talent of Robert Thomas. So I don't dislike that. I think Buchnevich can be a value in your drafts anywhere as well. You go with Jeremy Lazon, another beefer.
Yeah, so I was hoping to get Kiefer the Beefer, so you stole him from me. So good on you. So what I'm doing here, because I missed out on all of the actually rosterable D, is I'm gonna fill my D slots just to lock down my hits category. So I took Jeremy Lazon, who I think will continue to hit at a great pace. He was second in hits per game last season. Like he only played 20 or so, but he was the hits king 2 seasons ago, and I think he'll be right up there with Kiefer the Beefer. And then I went with good old reliable Radko Gudas, who is always putting up the hits. And these slots on my defensive on my team here, Jeremy Lazon, Radko Gudas, I'm going to miss out on a lot of offense. But looking at my team, I will lead the league in hits. And do you have any doubt in that?
No. Even with grabbing Beaver Sherwood, I don't think I can compete. So really love that stuff from you. And I think that's a good point in categories leagues in terms of kind of fading defensemen to use for your hits. And sometimes, again, if the categories count blocks, it's a really good strategy because you can load up on those offensive players too. And we got some really good picks going late here as well. We got McCann, Colton Parayko, in kind of the later rounds, Evander Kane. That's a really good pick. Talk about some of these that interest you as I'm on the clock here.
Yeah, and Thatcher Demko too. I think he's another really great 0G option. I was gonna take McCann, but you taking Kiefer Sherwood made me say no. Let's lock down the hits. And then we have Alexander Nikishin, who's also going. He's projected in Yahoo to get 214 hits. It's really hard to project rookies like this, especially when there's not a lot of stats on hits, but especially on Carolina, I don't see I don't see Nikishin, not Nichushkin, getting 200 hits. I have him projected for. I haven't projected for 190. Okay, I'm wrong. Don't listen to me, everyone. He might get close to 200, so he's a good option here for the banger categories. And I love your pick with Anderson. And look at that, Noah Hannafin, who might get 50 points this year in the second last round.
Love the Noah Hannafin. It's one of those things where, again, I don't buy into the injury narrative as well, but Shea Theodore, I don't know if he's going to play the full. And if Noah Hannafin gets, let's just say 15 games, top power play quarterback, that's going to all the more boost his point total. So, and he can still get it done at even strength. He's a really good defenseman. They brought him in for that reason. Got some comments here as you're getting to your picks. I'm in a keeper league, Eric says. I have 3 goalies, Vasilevsky, Kemper, and Anderson. Keeping Vazzy, should I drop Anderson and Kemper and risk a new goalie in the draft or hold on to one of them? I think you could probably hold on to Kemper. I think it'd be worthwhile. I think he's proven that he can do that. Anderson is the one that would be the third one out for me personally, and I don't hate on that. If you were to do that, Ryan, what do you think out of those 3?
Yeah, I think I need some more info on the type of league it is. Vasi, Kemper, and Anderson. Honestly, if it's a categories league like the one we're doing here, I'd have to go Darcy Kemper because he was in my stats that of looking at consistency, he was the most valuable goalie in category leagues. So I would be going right back to keeping Kemper.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Crab comes in with another question. Hedman, Fox, Morrissey, Lane Hudson, and Yossi. Who would you take of these in the 4th points league? He says. I'll leave it to you first. That's pretty easy for me, but
Points league. I'm gonna assume he means like fantasy points and not just straight points. Did you read that the same way?
Yeah, that's what I read it as.
Okay, yeah. I'm going I'm going Victor Hedman. I think he has the highest floor out of those D. Um, and then gotta go Roman Yossi, then Adam Fox, then Morrissey, then Hudson. How about you?
Say it one more time for me so I can get that in my head.
I'm going Victor Hedman, then I'm going
Yeah.
Roman Yossi, and then Adam
Okay.
Fox, then Morrissey, and then Lane Hudson.
Okay. I'll switch it up a little bit. I would go Yossi, assuming he stays healthy. I just think he has that ceiling. Then Hedman, then Fox, then Morrissey, then Hudson. So similar, but
Yeah.
I just Roman Yossi's talent again. If he can manage this pot syndrome, then I'm hoping he can get back to it. I any other year, like 1 year, 2 years ago, like if we talked Roman Yossi and Victor Hedman, I mean, you're taking Roman Yossi.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But the floor, like you said, it's all about safety floor. Yeah.
Yeah, in the fourth round, there's a little bit of risk with Yossi.
Absolutely. You want to
So
quickly recap?
Yeah, we went through this draft. Definitely felt a lot different from that first one. I wasn't getting as much value as I could the first one, and that is what you should expect. If you do a mock draft in Yahoo before, let's say a day before your real draft in your league, you do the mock draft, you're like, oh my God, look at this team I can create. And then you get into your real league and all of a sudden you can't do that and it's unrealistic. So just have that in mind. Did you take Anders Lee with your last pick?
I did.
Interesting. I think that is a very interesting pick at 192nd with zero upside. He's a safe floor player, but in my opinion, with your last round pick, maybe shoot for upside and drop him if he doesn't get the upside. What are you thinking about Anders Lee?
There's an old saying, Ryan, don't tell people how to do their draft, No, it was my last pick. I saw Anders Lee and I was like, you know what? He helped me last year. He's got hit and shot coverage. I think he's going to stay on that top power play. Barzal gets back there. If Anders Lee's out there deflecting a bunch of, Matt Barzal shots into the net, I'm not going to hit. He could be back for 50 category coverage, shots, hits. I was trying to maybe chase you a little bit in the hits. You got back into my head, talking about the hits. So we'll kind of tally that up as we get into your team.
Yeah, you know what? You convinced me that on Anders Lee, maybe actually there is some upside there because if he can do what he did last year, like that's amazing with the shots, the hits, 54 points. That's amazing. I just don't see him doing that. But again, you convinced me there's some upside there, so I don't hate it as much. But yeah,
he's I feel like too, watching some of the Islanders games, I swear he got like at a minimum 4 or 5 goals called back because all he's doing is banging his body in front of the net and interfering with the goalie to get those goals. So maybe the refs will be a little bit more lenient on him here, get him a little more goals.
Yeah. We got a drafter in here saying, shoot, it's a Cats league. I drafted like a points league. That's all right. It's just a Yahoo mock draft. All good. But yeah, let's go through our teams here. You want to go first?
Yeah, why don't I go first, considering I had the better team this time. We'll just get it out of the way. So I go Nathan McKinnon at the 1-1, no shocker there. Reinhardt at the end of the second, I feel like can happen in some other, like a standard draft, but still felt really good. Center, right wing eligible. Tage Thompson, again, right wing eligible. I've kind of belayed this point, but I feel like he's still going to provide value. So I don't think any of those are like, oh my gosh, the value is so high. Connecting in the fourth, I still really like I said, left wing, right wing eligible. I think he's going to get more points this year playing with Michkov and under Rick Tocchet. Jake Sanderson in the fifth as a top tier defenseman still feels pretty good. And this is kind of where I think my value was here, getting into the 6th through 8th. Alex DeBrincat in the 6th round, I feel like was really good. Nikolai Ehlers in the 7th, even better. Miro Heiskanen, again, I touched on it with Dallas. I don't think that the top power play is locked down either. I do believe that Thomas Harley is going to get it eventually, but I can see them kind of doing a back and forth, or if one of them gets injured, then he's going to have it. So I still like Heiskanen for the value there in the 8th. Tomas Hertl in the 9th feels really good with left wing eligible. He's going to be on that top line, top power play. Gustafsson in the 10th. Again, we had a goalie run. Igor Shesterkin in the 10th felt good too, but Gustafsson just as well. Matt Duchene and Kiefer Sherwood feel good value picks, especially Kiefer Sherwood in categories league in the 12th. Buchnevich, like I said, try eligible. I think he could get 65 to 70 points again if things fall right for him. Freddie Anderson, we both kind of touched on in this format with really good save percentage, wins with Carolina and a sound defensive environment. For my second goalie, Noah Hannafin at the 15, and Anders Lee as the steal of the draft. Ryan, rip any of these picks apart, or tell me if you see anything that you like.
Yeah. What I want to talk about a bit is your goalies. We're 0G, but that really lends to a lot of goalie talk in the late rounds of what they can do, especially in this draft where almost every goalie went after round 9, which is a true Apples and Ginos draft, I think. But you took Gustafsson as your first goalie in the 10th round, and I do want to just let you know, like in these constructs that I made, he was my 4th best goalie last year in categories leagues. He had an insane first half where he was the top goalie in the first half, and then he was a top 20 goalie in the second half, so he did fall off a bit, but with that came the injury of Kaprizov, and Minnesota just fell off as a team. So I really like Gustafsson. He only had 2 really bad weeks last year, so he is a pretty consistent guy, and I think that should continue. And then Freddie Anderson in these rankings that I had, if you look at value per week played, he was in the top 6. So if he's healthy, I think he'll provide consistent value, even if it's in a timeshare. He only needs 1 or 2 games a week. If he's only letting in 2 goals in that game, and it's a 900 save percentage and a win, that's still a quality week, as long as the 900 is above the average of the week, which tends to be in these days. So liking your goalies there.
Love that. Yeah, I've always been a big Freddie fan. Yeah, he's consistent, and I feel like he doesn't get a ton of in Carolina it's hard, but a lot of the blowout games, 4 or 5 goals against, very rarely do you see that in Carolina, let alone with him in net too. And I do think he is still the better option over Pyotr Kochetkov when healthy. Hopefully they run him more as a 1A, 1B instead of the 50-50 split they were kind of doing near the end. Ryan, let's get into your team.
Yeah. Sorry, you did bring up those blowout games, which he did have a few last year. He had 6 really bad starts that only led to 2 really bad weeks where he was able to rebound in that week. Did want to just note on that point. So last year might be an anomaly for him with those really bad starts though. But yeah, we'll get into my team. We went Brady Tkachuk at the 10th spot, and then Philip Forsberg locking down shots and hits early. And then Clayton Keller, I really like him at the end of the 3rd this year. Martin Necas in the 4th round, I like him there. I would take him at the end of the 3rd as well if Keller wasn't there. And then I went Kevin Fiala. I have him projected for 77 points, as I already spoke about. Got him in the 7th round in our first draft, but I think he would have been taken before my pick in the 6th here, so I had to take him. And then Timo Meier, who I think there's room to grow on New Jersey. I think they need to let him on that top power play, and I hope they will. And then my mistake of a pick, Nichushkin, I wanted him on my queue, but I'm very happy with him. He'll probably not play all the games, but I think a 70-point pace is in the works for Nichushkin. And then I took Nazem Kadri at the 8th round. Not crazy value there, just I didn't have centers yet, so happy to take him there with my first center. And then everyone took all of my favorite defensemen before my first defenseman, which was Vince Dunn in round 9. I just needed a defenseman to put up points at this point, and I think Dunn will do so. And then we have Fantilli, which I've spoken about him enough. I really like Fantilli. And then my two 0G options here, which I did reach, like, if you're looking at all the goalies drafted, we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I took Kemper as the 10th goalie off the board, and I took Stolarz as the 11th goalie off the board. So in a normal draft, those might be a reach, but these happened in the 11th and 12th round, so I'm very happy with this value here. And then I locked down hits with Jeremy Lauzon and Radko Gudas, and then I took Troy Terry, who I think in the second last round, there's upside for above 70 points, and with Anaheim's off-night schedule, I'm happy to have that on my team. And then Jake Wallman is that fourth defenseman that I like to have on my team, where if he's not doing anything, I'll drop him in a poorly scheduled week where I can pick up a forward that I can slot in for 4 games. What do you think about any of those picks?
No, I love the 0G option as well. I feel like both of us, like Darcy Kemper, Anthony Stolarz, really good tandem for your goalies. Troy Terry in the 15th round, man, I didn't even notice that. That was a great pick. So was this Brock Besser by Alex in the 15th. Yeah, no, I definitely think even with Val Nichushkin, like, yeah, in the 7th, he probably would have wanted somebody else. But yeah, I can't hate on too many of your picks. Really love Marty Nikas in the 4th, and then Clayton Keller in the 3rd as well. Yeah, really good stuff. Very briefly, Ron, I'm curious to see with that blowout stat that you had, were there any goalies like that you have in your model there that had the least amount of like kind of blowouts, like that maybe we wouldn't know about, like, in terms of like, say, 4 or 5 goals against?
Well, so my particular construct, so there's already been people out there before me who went with a quality start construct and a really bad start construct. I think the really bad start, Dauber puts it on his Dauber Tools website. It's just like if they have under an 850 save percentage and it's not a win, I believe that's considered a really bad start. Quality start, I think he sets like the league average save percentage, and if they get it above that, and it's a quality start. But what I do with the quality weeks is, because I'm looking at category leagues with head-to-head matchups in a week, you really want to know what your goalie is doing week in, week out. So I look at the whole week of the goalie stats, and I compare that to the average. So if they're above the average in 2 out of those 3 categories, in wins, goals against average, and save percentage, if they're above average in 2 out of 3 of those, I consider it a quality week. If they are top, I believe I have them as top 14. If they're in the top 14 in all 3 of them, then I consider it a star week. And then if they are in the bottom, I believe they're ranked outside of the top 30 in all 3, or outside the top 35 in the top 3, it's considered a really bad week. So in terms of all of those constructs, Vasilevsky is the only goalie I had having 0 really bad weeks last year. Darcy Kemper had 1. And some other highlights, Logan Thompson only had 2. Linus Ullmark only had 2. Vejmelka surprisingly only had 2. Freddie Anderson only had 2. And then we had Hellebuck, Gustafsson, and Bobrovsky only had 2. And then all the other top goalies out there did have 3 or more really bad weeks. I will point to Dustin Wolf. He had 5 really bad weeks, so he was more of an inconsistent guy. But he showed he can have stretches of stellar play and then stretches of poor play. So that wasn't really valuable in categories leagues last year. And he's still really young. I'm excited to see if he can turn into more of a consistent option this year. I'm definitely drafting Dustin Wolf in points leagues this year, but I'm not necessarily going after him in categories leagues.
Interesting. That's really good stuff. I'm actually still shocked that Freddie Anderson had as many as you said. I didn't go that deep dive like you do, but that's shocking to me considering what his numbers normally are, and then the system in Carolina. But
yeah, I mean, he did have a pretty bad year last year. He had an 899 save percentage. The year prior, he had 932. Year prior, he had 903. The year prior, he had 922. So, I mean, if that trend continues, he's going to have a bounce back this year. But with the really bad starts construct, he had 6th last year in 22 games, which is like the highest percentage of his career of really bad starts. So I think something was going on. He's often injured, and something was bothering him last year. So maybe he can get back to his normal self.
And I feel like Carolina had some stretches there where they just played not to their standard too. It's interesting you touched on Vejmelka too, considering that Utah has the second most off nights too. So that is something I'm going to be looking at. But yeah, I think that was interesting to do. My teams are definitely better in some of these Yahoo mocks, so I felt pretty good about that. And I like some of the position eligibility we get in Yahoo too. I think it adds another layer of complexity to some of these where you're drafting some of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was a good exercise to get into these Yahoo drafts, even if we're getting way better value than in our real leagues.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly will get into some more of these in the near future. And we can have more Apples and Ginos followers, subscribers, and watchers join us and snipe us and probably come out with some better teams even too. Any final thoughts you have, Ryan?
No. I think we kept it civil. I praised your team a bit. You praised mine because we really couldn't hate on too much in that.
Absolutely. Well, if there's nothing else, that's all we've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value and helped you get just a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. Many thanks to the band there for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check us out on Spotify as well. Appreciate your time. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.